You ever felt AI is moving so fast that you never catch up? That was me before I learned AI in 3 to 4 months and got my first job building prediction models for portfolio managers to predict the stock market. Companies like Apple, Google, and Meta, Netflix, the FANG companies, all headhunt me, and I didn't even apply. I've built AI for self-driving cars and Apple Vision Pro, but if I had to start over today, I would do it completely different. How I'd become an AI engineer today and get hired starting from zero. So if you're anyone who's feel overwhelmed by AI, this is the roadmap for you. Now, before I get into it, I just want you guys to know that I learned AI in about 3 months, 3 to 4 months, right? But that is not typical, right? Learning AI in 3 months and then securing a job in 3 months, those things are totally different, especially in today. When I started learning it almost like 10 years ago, I knew about it beforehand, but actually started implementing it about 10 years ago. That was more ML or machine learning, deep learning. So you're learning more of the math behind it and the statistics and the calculus and the programming behind it. Now in 2026, there's way more people learning AI, and there's not necessarily becoming a researcher and actually implementing the code, is actually using the models, because so many models, there's probably a model for everything now, and actually putting it together. So it's a lot more competition. So it's not a problem in saying, okay, you're going to learn AI in 3 months and you get a job in 3 months. That's how it was back then. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you just have to understand more people are learning it. So the competition is more fierce. People are a lot more interested in it. But what hasn't changed are the opportunities. Companies still need people to implement. Big thing over here is to implement AI. Actually solving real problems, be able to take concept or research idea or solve a problem that a company have and get to a solution. That has never changed. When I first learned AI, I was actually coming from the film and game industry. So I worked in the visual effects, Hollywood films, feature animation, AAA games industry, and it came across a presentation or a paper that actually used AI to solve a problem. Thought that was interesting, so I started learning it. And back then, we actually had to code it from scratch. Then later on, other platforms or other things such as TensorFlow or PyTorch came out back then. We actually had to make it ourselves. And the thing is, I did learn about web development in about 3-4 months and used it in actual projects. And I knew about programming and coding, so that helped. But AI itself, machine learning, that was completely new territory. And it was a foreign language when you first started out. And the only reason I started pushing through it because I saw results with it, or else I wouldn't have continued, because it was just super complicated. And at least it seemed very complicated at the very beginning because of all these new terminology and math and calculus and statistics that you had to learn back then. Now it's completely different. Now it's different in the sense that you could be an AI engineer because it's been like a decade of people being an ML engineer, a machine learning engineer, or a deep learning engineer, actually building out neural networks and training them. Now there's so many of them that already exist that you could just take a model and just put it together to make an end result. But back then, I actually had to learn how to do, I was ML practitioner, a machine learning, deep learning practitioner or engineer that actually made the models. Then had to be an AI engineer to actually put it together to make a final prediction to make something work. And my first job, because back then not many people knew how to do it, so if you were one of the few people that could, people reached out to you. And my first job was working in AI, building AI models to make predictions on the stock market. So based off the signals that were happening in the stock market right here, we would actually go and back test it, meaning we tested in the past to see if our models or our AI models actually did make the right prediction. That's what back testing means. And if it worked, those winning models, we would send them to portfolio managers of people who are actually managing real money for their real clients to make real decisions, to make money off of it, right? So this wasn't actually just a toy. It was actually a valuable thing, because what portfolios managers do is they basically diversify their portfolios. They do a mix depending on the risk appetite of their clients, and they try to diversify, meaning they'll make a couple of picks, and if the stock market goes down in certain areas, you don't lose all of your money with it. So having different algorithms to perform it under different conditions is very helpful to them. So they need an arsenal of different algorithms and models and techniques to use to achieve what their clients want to do. But here's the thing right here. If I was doing this today in 2026, I definitely would not follow the same path that I did. See, the landscape completely changed in talk about the last decade, right? What's worked back then would not work now at all, because back then it was not many people knew about it. It was very nebulous. Nobody knew what it was, and you had to learn a lot of ML or machine learning and deep learning and actually had to code things. Now, these models already exist. You have to know how to make it work together. You just take models that exist. You don't have to train it. You don't have to learn the math. You just make it to work together. You have to know how to implement it and get a final results that clients or companies want. And that is highly sought after. So let me be brutally honest about 2026. AI is not optional. It is not a nice to have skill. Companies are not using AI. They are dying. They have noticeable decline from the year prior to the year now, and seeing the exponential leaps that the competitors are using. But here's the paradox. People, who use AI, who claim to use AI, most people think just knowing how to write emails with ChatGPT is knowing AI. And that is not the case right here. So there's actually a real opportunity. Being able to build AI systems, not just prompt them, right? Being able to understand the actual pipelines here, meaning from like the data going all the way down to deployment, and also be able to take a business problem and make an AI solution of it. That is the real opportunity that businesses are looking for, and that makes you sought out after, right? If you know how to do that stuff, they don't care exactly what you do or how you do it. And it happens to be AI allows you to do this really well if you know how to actually do that. And this is how you actually become valuable, and this is the real opportunity here. Now, here's what I would say is my insight from actually doing everything from like self-driving cars to actually designing AI models for Apple Vision Pro, is that your domain experience is your superpower, right? Whatever field you are in right now, that is your advantage. It's not your limitation. And what I mean by that is that if you know how to do AI engineering, let's say I know how to do AI engineering, but I'm not great at cooking. That is not my field at all, right? And if you know how to do AI engineering and you are an expert cook, an expert chef or whatnot, you're going to do way more. You're going to be a lot more successful in that field than I am. And you're going to have a lot more opportunities because you actually have background in that, and companies would actually come towards you for that, right? Basically, supplementing your knowledge of AI actually makes you a lot more attractive, and it's your superpower. So you want to lean into that. Now, before I give you the step-by-step, I have to talk about the mindset here. You have to have this sense of urgency, even go as far as some people might say like desperation. And that's what pushed me through, right? Now, you may not be in this type of situation, right? Fortunately, or unfortunately, because you need to find that desperation or that hunger to push you through. And the reason why I say that is because when things are easy and you're comfortable right now, there's no reason you're going to get up that extra early to go push yourself to go learn something that at this moment you don't see the actual results right away, right? And you're only going to feel it when there's an actual turning of events and you're like, oh, I wish I knew how to do that. By then it's kind of like too late, right? And you have to be in a situation where you feel that there's a sense of urgency. You have to get this done, because by time the opportunity comes, you're already prepared for it, right? So you need to do that, because especially at the very beginning, you're going to feel like there's not going to be any progress because you're not going to get an actual result right off the bat, right? But it builds up over time. It's kind of like if you're going to the gym, right? You don't go to the gym for like 2 days or eat a salad one time and expect to get a six-pack abs, right? But if you're consistent with it, you're going to see huge results with it, right? But the whole thing about that is mindset of that is actually staying focused and staying locked in from the beginning and keep pushing forward, that under no circumstances you miss your training regimen or your learning opportunities, because when it's come time to it, you want to be prepared. Because the thing is, you will be reinventing yourself more than once, especially nowadays. It's not like how it was like 50 years ago, where you could get a job, like they say, just go to college and then you'll have a stable job and you're living the dream, right? Nowadays, it's actually statistically shown that people don't stay at a job for more than 2 years, 2-3 years in general. And that's just the way things are. And now most people are probably feeling this a lot more in terms of AI because things have radically changed in a short amount of time. So the idea of starting over never fully goes away because you're going to have to always adapt with the times with it, right? So you gotta have to be comfortable being uncomfortable here. That's one thing I've learned, but if you push through it with an actual proper plan and a step-by-step plan, you'll get to the end and you'll actually feel confident. And the thing is, confidence comes from competence, right? So putting in the work and actually learning what you need to do will actually make you feel confident and going out there and feel a lot more secure in your abilities. If I was starting today, this is exactly what I do in the first month. So step 1 here would be the foundation. So this would be the first month, the first week 1 to 4, right? I would actually learn Python, right? And I'm not talking about just like the regular general Python tutorials. I'm talking about learn NumPy, which is numerical Python. That is the math heavy optimized version. Pandas and Matplotlib. Just learn these only, right? Because these are foundational. There's more fancy stuff afterwards, but these are the foundation. And focus mainly on data manipulation, right? From day 1. And because no matter what field you're going in, you're going to have data and you have to know how to manipulate it and form it into a workable format for your actual problems. The other thing about this is that what's great news about this that a lot of people don't know is that you don't actually have to invest in like a super powerful computer or buy software. You could use Google Colab, which is completely free. So if you have a Google account, just like you have to Google Docs or Google Sheets for like kind of like spreadsheets or like kind of like Excel or Microsoft Word, right? You also have Google Colabs, which basically allows you to write code and there's no setup. You just go in and there's an option to just create it just in the same section of where you have Google Docs or Google Sheets, right? And not only that, there's also free GPUs. So as long as you have a laptop, you can start to learn how to code for free. The next thing I would say for week 2, for the first month of your foundation, is build your first AI project. And I have told other people who are interested in AI, I said, you gotta have to actually implement and do what you need to do. So pick a problem from your current field because you'll actually understand what is the definition of done or what's correct in that, right? And for me, my background, it'll be something from 3D. So like predicting render times of things. And there's a lot of other things I could talk about that, but this is not 3D specific. And the other thing I would say is actually use scikit-learn. That is basically a machine learning module or Python that comes with Python that already have a lot of pre-built known algorithms and models that are inside there. If you're more advanced, if you probably hear nowadays something like PyTorch, probably more so than TensorFlow, but scikit-learn, it has a lot of known algorithms that comes with Python, or you can install it with Python, and you want to build something simple. And usually you can start off with something, right? Start off with like a known thing of like predicting housing prices within an area, right? That's usually a starter project, right? Now the thing is, it will be terrible. Like anything, when you first start off, you can't expect to swing the first time you're at bat and expect to hit a home run, right? But ship it anyways. Go end to end, and then you go back and assess it, right? The only way you'll get better is by actually doing it. This is what you do in week 3 and week 4 of your first month. That I would do for sure is understand the AI landscape. Now the key thing here is understand. I don't necessarily mean master. There's no way you're going to master it if this is the first time you're doing it, right? One thing I would say is start by reading Attention is All You Need. That's a paper. Even if you don't understand it all, right? Go through it. The first time you do it, you're not going to understand it. That's just natural. I mean, I'll give you an example. I mean, I loved Game of Thrones until like the last season, but I loved Game of Thrones when it started out. The first time I watched it, I was super confused. I didn't understand what was going on. And then someone wanted to watch it, so I started over with them. The second time, because I knew what happened afterwards and I kept seeing kind of like the trend of how things worked, it made a lot more sense the second time just by being exposed to it over and over again, right? You have to just start jumping into it, right? Next thing is, I would say watch 2-minute papers on YouTube, right? It's just to get in the flow of things and get more acclimated to it, right? And then the other thing I would say is join an AI community in your domain. because you'll understand your own domain. And then when you go to the AI community, you'll be able to make the connections a lot easier with it, right? And the other thing is, I would say, is actually start using Claude or ChatGPT to explain concepts to you that you don't understand. And here's a trick. You could say, explain this concept to me, and as if I'm in the 4th grade. And what it will do is basically explaining in simple terms that a 4th grader could use. And usually that just means it doesn't use big, complicated jargon words, and it uses a lot more analogies, so you could understand, in storytelling frameworks, you could understand it a lot better. The idea is for you to get the high level and understand what is actually going on. So you don't have to dive into the complicated math or statistics or calculus or neural networks and backprop and forward propagation. You don't need to understand that. You need to understand what is a problem is trying to solve, especially if you're already in your own domain. You'll be able to link it a lot easier. And that's going to be your superpower, because you know your domain. And as soon as you're able to use AI with it, you're going to be unstoppable. For step 2, specialization for week 5 to 8, right? The 2nd month right here, I would say it's very different now in 2026 than when I started learning, right? You cannot be a generalist anymore. There's just so many different options out there. You have to pick one lane and specialize in that, because people want actual solutions. So know that solution very well. So I'll give you some options. So for example, that are kind of like major right now. Option 1, I would say computer vision, right? So if you're in the creative fields, like I was, like 3D visual effects and all that, I would focus on image processing, like object detection, and learn PyTorch or TensorFlow. Like I talk about scikit-learn, that comes with like easy to install with pretty much a scientific stack with Python and whatnot. But PyTorch and TensorFlow are a lot more intensive now when you start talking about machine learning. So you want to learn about that stuff, right? Option 2, I would say, is probably what is most people know about because of ChatGPT, NLPs and LLM. So natural language processing and like large language models, right? So if you're from writing or doing communications or business focus on like fine tuning things, RAG is kind of like retrieval, right? And prompt engineering, giving instructions of how to get back the information you want. You want to learn like LangChain and like vector databases. So basically, if you're in communications, writing all that, this is what you want to deal with. I'm writing emails, in business, communicating. That's another big option, right? Option 3, time series and predictive, right? So that is if you're in finance or operations, logistics, where you actually have to give numbers and give a scope and projections of what things will be, right? This is what I did. I did market predictions, right? I learned LSTM at the time, right? This is long short-term memory, which up until 2017, that was like the major way of how models used to learn. And then around 2018, the transformer model, and not the movie, kind of took over it, and that's been dominant up until today, right? For sequences, and it's kind of transformed what it is right now. Of course, if this might all sound foreign to you, that's why you're gonna have to try to learn what this is, because these are kind of common, and it will become common when you start looking into it. So focus on one of these options. Now, the thing is, pick one and master it for 4 weeks. And then I would say build 3 projects in that specialization so you'll understand it, right? Don't make the mistake and try to learn everything, right? You want to learn what you need to know. And when situations arise, you learn just in time, like I mentioned earlier. And that's how I've been working all the time, or else I'll just be sitting down and learning things for the sake of learning. I need to learn it because I actually have an application and I have a goal to obtain. So I learn what I need to know to get to the next point or solve that certain step in a problem. And step 3 over here, the portfolio difference, right? And that would focus this on your 3rd month or week 9 to 12, right? So here's the thing, everyone has a portfolio, right? Or if they don't, you're already ahead of the game if you have one, right? Thing is, most of them suck, right? Because they don't know, they're at least not positioning it where it's actually beneficial to the person or the stakeholder who's actually looking at it, right? And here's how to make yours stand out in 2026, right? A system that solves a real problem in your industry. Like, you want to have a portfolio for that, right? For me, I made an AI that optimized 3D rendering for pipelines, right? If you're not in 3D, that doesn't make any sense to you. So applying for a job and showing that in that field, it doesn't make sense for someone. So you want to do something that is relevant to that field, right? An implementation of a recent paper, for example, shows you can read research and make it work. You could actually take the idea and actually make it work. You're going to be extremely valuable for, right? It's valuable for that. And also a full pipeline project showing from scratch, how did you collect the data? And nowadays, data is the new oil, right? That is not even the machine learning models or the weights anymore. There's been studies that show that pretty much any relevant or appropriate model could basically converge to the solution. It's mainly the data that you need to get it, right? So if you're able to do a project from scratch where you collect the data, able to clean it, and then train a model off the clean data, deployed meaning actually make something work out of it and monitor the values and actually see it work, being able to do that process alone will make you very valuable and stand out for companies, right? And I want to point out here, tiny AI coding scripts, right, changed my life way more than giant ideas. Now, the thing is, when you talk about things, people like to sensationalize, use the big words, and that sounds great, but realistically, it may be very difficult or nearly impossible to implement because of a lot of restrictions. But a lot of small code or a lot of AI tools for everyday life that could free up, someone's work every single day, just even a little bit at a time adds up, and it actually adds a lot of value to the company. For example, I've done code where someone manually had to do data entry and it would take them 5 days. And I would write something that would go through AI code that would actually go through their database, see what they've changed, and it would update it within like 2 minutes. That saved them a week of time. Someone's salary, what does someone work, like 35, 40 hours a week, right? Whatever their salary is times that, now reduced to 2 minutes. So now they have options. They have that time free to do something a little different and actually optimize their time for something that's a little more impactful for the business, right? And for their own benefits. Could also show that they're more efficient at their job, right, than their counterpart. That will take them literally a lot longer. It'll take them a week to do something that could take you 2 minutes. That makes you really valuable, right? The other thing about what you've built you want to make your portfolio stand out is you want to document the business value. Like, why should I care? Like, how does it actually affect the business? Not just the technical implementation. Basically think of it like this way, right? When you go, let's say you travel to another city and you want to rent a car, the main goal you're trying to do with the value for that is the car to get you from A to B, right? Nobody actually sits down to you and try to sell you the car, to rent the car and tell you what kind of engine they have inside, what year it was made, none of that. They just want to know, like, hey, you're here. This is going to get you from this place to this place. What is your value? Are you traveling alone? Do you have a family? That is the value of trying to sell. So the same thing when you have your portfolio is, what is a business trying to do? And what is that you've made in your portfolio? How do you bring value to the business? The technical implementation, they care least about. It's more of the process. Are you able to take that information and do it? And maybe the technical implementation is allow you to do that stuff, but it's more that they care that you could do this to bring them value. And this is kind of like the byproduct. The technical implementation is more of the byproduct, right? So I'll give you an example. When I built models for portfolio managers that were buying stocks for their clients on the stock market, right? They didn't care about the accuracy metrics, right? So if I made a machine learning model or AI model and I was in the academia world, I worked with a lot of PhD people, their goal is they have a metric that's the state of the art that's happening right now and they're trying to beat it. So if their new model is better than theirs, they're happy, right? Nobody cared about that in the real life. What they care about is, in this scenario, how much money did it actually make, and should they make it, or does that save them money? That is the only thing that mattered in their business case. That is the value that they're looking for that business, right? So if you cannot, basically give the value that they're looking for, all these other metrics here are not relevant at all. All right, so now we move on to step 4, the job hunt strategy, right? This is where most people fail, and it's not even just AI engineering, it's just in general. I've seen this for 2 decades in general, right? They basically, whatever subject they're in, they learn for a year and then start applying. Wrong. What happens, what I've seen when you do it, you've learned everything and then you start applying because you have this mindset is that, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to apply today and then tonight they're going to reach out to me and I get a job offer or interview tomorrow and I'll start next week. Maybe it's not that tight, but people think it's a lot faster than it actually is, right? What I would suggest is you start applying week 9, right? So yes, that is like 2 months after, the first month you do your foundation, your second month you're doing your specialization, start applying, right? Yes, way before you're ready. And the reason for this, and I've learned this back like in college days, honestly, all the people who were successfully found a job right when they graduated, in fact, they got job offers before they graduated, is because the year before they were going to graduate, they started applying for jobs, because it takes time for it, right? You apply, it goes back and forth for a month and all that, and then you probably get a response 3 months later, and then you back and forth before you get the interview, and then it can take like 6 months if you even have it, and then you might not get it, you might get another candidate. But if you do this consistently, by the time you get it, you're finishing the program, and all that time doesn't feel like everything seems to line up and things seems to just fall in place. Now, imagine when you wait until you're finished. Now, you're expecting things to happen, and now you're waiting like 3 months before they reply, if they reply at all. Another 3 months before you get interview and get a feedback, and you might not get it, and you have to do it again. So it seems like you're going months to years, like a year or more. A lot of people I know, it takes months for them to get it, and you're just doing nothing but just applying for jobs, and you feel really stressed. So here's my exact strategy of how I would actually do it, right? So my daily routine is basically in the morning, I'll wake up and improve one project that I'm working on. And then at lunch, I apply for 3 jobs. And then evening, I start building something new. And then where to apply? I would not just apply for tech companies. I'd probably do that first, because you try to do that, what you're actually applying for, right? But every company needs AI right now. So I also look for the keywords like ML engineering, that's machine learning engineering, not just AI engineering or engineer, because, different companies might have a different name for it. And here's the thing, target companies using your domain expertise. That is the secret. Apply to companies with your background, because your background is an advantage. If you're in a certain domain that I don't know, right? Even if I know AI, right? If I've never been in the domain and you apply for it, and I have, even though, let's say I have more experience in AI than you do, but you have that domain experience, you're going to be a lot more attracted to that. So use that to your advantage. That is your superpower. And here is a very important step that people don't really prepare for, and you should prepare beforehand, right? Is the interview step, right? The interview preparation here. So when you get that interview, and you will, right? If you apply enough and you want to do it early, apply early so you don't feel like, why people are not responding to me. Here's what they'll actually ask on high level, right? Can you implement solutions from a research paper? That was my job when I first started out, right? Can you work with messy real world data, not just Kaggle data sets? So what is Kaggle? If you start working in machine learning, deep learning, AI, you'll hear about Kaggle data sets. That's pretty much like a lot of competitions, or for you to test out, you can take data sets and start practicing your AI skills with it. If you're doing month 2 and you're actually specializing, a lot of times you're probably going to get your data sets from the Kaggle data sets. Now, the thing is about it is that these data sets are usually curated, meaning they're prepared and they have everything they need for you to work correctly. In the real world, data is actually messy, and you actually have to be able to get the data itself and clean it and prepare it before you can work on it, right? I'll give you a simple example of what that means. Let's say you're working on some data entry task, let's say for a company, and they want to see the past history of what products were bought. And in the past, before there was let's say before it was digitized, they had everything was written out on paper. So people wrote the dates of transactions by hand. And we all know dates are not consistent. You might have the month first, then the day, then the year. It might be all numbers. It might switch up the order, the year first, or the month first, or the day first. It might be spelled out. You might spell out the whole month. They might just put the abbreviation. So it's not standardized. So part of it might be the data itself is like, okay, even you might have to first digitize it. And then after that, you might have to conform them and make all the data in a format that's consistent before you work at it. Because if you have one format where the date is all numbers, but has the month, day, year, and the next one is it's the day, month, year, it's not going to work out properly. So you have to like choose a format and clean it. That's the data preparation. And that's where like the messy part comes in. And what happens if you don't have it, right? You have to deal with that. So they want to know, because in the real world, that's what you're going to have to deal with. And you want to know if you could be able to deal with that, right? And the other thing is, can you explain AI concepts to non-technical AI to non-technical stakeholders, right? So this is a critical skill, right? Because a lot of times people want the solution, especially in business needs, right? They want a solution. They don't necessarily want to learn AI. They just want to know, could you explain to me how is this relevant and why should I care? Think about it as if you are taking your car to a mechanic, right? You want the mechanic to explain to you what's going on with the car, but you don't want to be a mechanic yourself. You don't want to go and study an engine just to be able to talk to them. You want them to convey that information. That's your job if you're going to be working in AI as well. And the other thing is, can you connect AI to the business value? Because that's the whole idea why you get hired. This is exactly the secret of why you get hired and why they want you. So here's the thing. I want to be honest with you. It's not going to take 3 months for most people, right? Maybe it's 6 months, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, right? No one can really predict. It depends how much you work. It depends on the opportunity, right? But one thing I have to say is, but so what, right? As I learned from my own journey, doing the right things, having the guidance, having the right plan, having the persistence, applying continuously, that's a key word, continuously, even when no one interviews you for months, right? That's what it takes, because you could fail 1,000 times. You only have to be right one time. And I'll give you an example. I mentioned these things now of what I've accomplished. It definitely was not like that at the very beginning. And I could tell you, I had people when I was definitely starting out, I was being persistent and there was nothing to show at the beginning, but I knew I was doing the right things. And I did have the guidance because I've seen the path and I've seen success, what it looks like from other people. So I was being persistent and I see I was closing the gap on that, right? But explaining it to other people, they didn't see that. And I literally had multiple people. I can remember like one time this person was saying like, you've been doing this for years. What do you have to show for that? Right? And I didn't realize that's how they viewed it. Right? And all that changed when I finally succeeded. Right? All that struggle, all that how people perceive you, and you might feel terrible, or especially when nothing's happening and no one's interviewing for months, right? All that changes as soon as it works, right? You just need to hit that home run one time to prove that all that's works. So that's why I say, so what, right? And especially this day and age, AI is here, right? You have to learn it. It's no longer an option. So whenever you learn it, as long as you learn it, you have that and no one can take that away from you. Here's your action plan. Tonight, set up Google Colab. And I mean that tonight. Google Colab is free. You don't have to have a powerful computer. You just have to have the internet. If you have a Google account, a Gmail account, you have Google Colab. Write your first Python script. You can find any tutorial on YouTube for this, right? This week, build something, anything at all that processes data. Again, YouTube, just find anything. Just get started with this, right? This month, complete one specialized path that I mentioned earlier. And then in 3 months, have 5 projects with 100 job applications out. Just apply. It's a numbers game, right? Don't take it personal. You just go out there. You just need to get the ball rolling, right? And in 6 months, be working as an AI engineer. And a lot of you might be laughing, like, oh, I can't promise that. No, I can't promise it, but I know that if you're actually doing these things, this is now an actual possibility. It's not in the realm of impossible. But if you're not doing anything at all, you can't expect opportunities to come at all, right? And the thing is, it might happen a little earlier, it might happen a little later, right? But if you actually set a goal and work towards that, the likelihood goes up exponentially by actually doing that. Will everyone watching this, will they do it? No. Most people watching this will do nothing. In fact, I'll be surprised even if most people even got this far in the video. Most people will wait until they feel ready. They'll take another course. They'll plan for 6 months. But you're going to start today. If you want results, you want to start today, because fortune favors the bold. Get started. Start uncomfortably. You don't know what you're doing. Of course not. Nobody knows what they're doing when you start. That's why you just start. To start learning what you need to know. Because in 2026, AI isn't the future anymore. It's the present. It's crazy. Every week, there's something so new that it's hard for me to even keep up of like which one's the best. As soon as I learn one thing, another thing seems to come out that's even better. And then I have to like assess, should I be using this or not? And that's the challenge now, is actually keeping up because it's already here. And either you're building it, right? Or you're going to be replaced by it. And now the thing is, I wouldn't say that, hey, you're going to be replaced by AI exactly. I would say you're going to be replaced by people who know how to use AI. That is what's happening, because AI is not like right now a magic button where you just press it and it just does it. You need to know. It definitely improves workflows and whatnot, but you need to know how to use it. So companies are looking for people that know how to use AI, right? And the question is not whether you can do it at all, right? I came from the film 3D world background, and I came in and learned from it, and now I started expanding to different areas. You can come from anywhere, and especially your domain specific, what you learn, your discipline is actually your superpower, right? If you are one of the first people or one of the few people that are able to do it and come with that solution, you're going to be a lot more attractive to companies. Again, because people are not going to be necessarily replaced by AIs. You're going to be replaced by people who know how to use AI. You want to be those people, right? And the question is whether you're willing to put in the work when the payoff isn't guaranteed, right? That's the thing, is that you put in a lot of this work and you're like, I did all this stuff and I don't see it. It comes afterwards, right? So your journey starts now. What are you going to do about it?